Several minutes of commercial-free football starts now.
Here are the Purple Mortgage Guys.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Purple Mortgage Guys. Just two out of the three this evening on this episode. We've got Goose, myself, Brent. Tanner could not make it tonight, but wanted to jump on and preview the Bengals game coming up on a Saturday. So it kind of threw everybody's schedule off a little bit, which is why we're a little short-staffed here on a Friday evening, but wanted to preview that. We wanted to talk a little bit about putting a cap on last week's game against the Raiders. Just the fact that those same Oakland Raiders, Goose, they scored 63 points last night. So they're averaging about 31 and a half over their last two games. So we'll get into that here in a second. If you're catching us for the first time, you've not yet subscribed, please do us a favor, go ahead and do that. And then we love comments. So if you've got any comments on the upcoming game, comments on the squad in general, or you just want to compliment Goose on his nice hat, anything goes. So leave us a comment. We'd love to talk about those on the next one. So Goose, we'll jump into the Bengals game tomorrow. But what do you make of the defense? Like, do you have a different perspective on shutting out the Raiders last week after watching what they did to the Chargers, or is it just playing a kind of a dumpster fire of a Chargers team? And maybe it is what it is. I guess overall thoughts on the defense going into the game tomorrow against the Bengals.
Yeah, I mean, it adds to it. Like I thought our defense, I talked pretty highly of them our last episode, that they're the real deal, but it definitely adds some emphasis to it after watching the game last night. It's pretty wild to see, especially on short notice, like to go from Sunday afternoon to a Thursday. That you never like to see someone lose their job, but pretty quickly in that game, I all year that Brandon Staley had hung around for as long as he did, just because that roster seemed so talented, and they just seemed to disappoint week after week. And they looked rough again last night, but
it makes you wonder how we lost to that team, right? TJ Hawkinson makes the catch. It's a different story, but man, they have not performed up to what a lot of people were thinking was going to be a playoff team this year. So we had the Raiders last week. We got the Bengals tomorrow, noon kick on a Saturday. The last time we watched a Saturday game, Goose, I don't know if you remember, but we had to do an episode at halftime because we were playing the Colts and we were down and we were down big, and it was memorable. So I don't know if tomorrow's going to be something that memorable or what to even expect. I feel like there's a lot of uncertainty going into it. I'm probably a little bit more optimistic with Mullens. I feel like we're going to move the ball. Some stats here on the Bengals defense as a whole. We should be able to move the ball. They are putting up a lot of points, I think 34 in their last two games. So Jake Browning's played pretty well. The Bengals have some weapons. Could be a high-scoring game. It's going to be interesting to see if the defense can show up yet again and help pull out a W in a game that's quite important. But I guess overall, Goose, tomorrow's game, there's 4 left. This is the only one in the AFC. The other 3 are obviously NFC and divisional games, 2 of which are against the Lions. So of the 4, this one's probably the least important. Not that you want to drop any of them, but if they're going to lose 1 or even 2, this one's probably one that we'd rather have them not come out on top. But overall thoughts on the playoff picture, I guess, going into this tomorrow?
I mean, I'd still love to control our own destiny and try to get a home field game. It's an uphill battle when you lose as many games as we have, but Detroit has seemed flawed. I just think we've had enough bad ball and turnovers that we need to win. And I wouldn't feel great about backing into the playoffs with like 2 more losses. So want the team to hit its stride. I think the defense certainly has. So they're just going to have to keep on rolling. And then hopefully our offense finds some new life with JJ, hopefully again, back and healthy, and Nick Mullens, someone who's comfortable in the offense, can get the ball out quick, and has so much more experience than the other 2. I think they have the potential to play really good ball. hopefully the injury bug stops, though.
So we've got an opportunity tomorrow. Obviously, a win would be huge. Keep us on track to have some very, very meaningful games for the division, even going into the last 3 weeks of the year. The Lions tomorrow night have the Broncos, who obviously have been playing pretty good football as of late. Detroit's slight favorite there, but they're at home, which was to be expected. So as we saw Monday night, you can't really pencil these out and think they're going to go exactly as planned, because I do not think any of us really thought the Packers were going to struggle with the Giants. They come out on the short end of that one. So overall, there's a chance tomorrow night at this time we could be talking about being one game back with 3 to play, and then 2 of those against Detroit. So that would make for some very interesting late December, early January football. So we'll see what version of the Vikings shows up tomorrow. We'll see if Mullens is the answer. If they can get rolling and be playing their best football at the end of the year here going into the playoffs, and if Mullens has any sort of spark and can just not turn the ball over and make some of these plays, not put our receiver in the hospital, that would be a great step forward. We'll see how that plays out. So we're going to get into some tidbits. We usually have Tanner do this. He obviously couldn't be on. So I've got a very abbreviated version tonight, Goose. You can feel free to add anything to it if you'd like.
Okay.
But just wanted to spell out a little bit about what we are in for with the Bengals and kind of where they sit. This game for them tomorrow, if we were talking about this one for the Vikings, maybe not being as important as those last 3, the one for the Bengals tomorrow is super, super important. So they are one of 6 teams in the AFC sitting at 7-6. And the way their tiebreaker situation is looking right now, they're actually in the 10th seed. So same record as the Vikings. Vikings sit at the 6th seed in the NFC. Bengals are the 10th seed in the AFC. So that'll be a very, very important game for them tomorrow. A couple things on their defense specifically. We mentioned the offense scored 34 the last 2. Defense, they've allowed the 6th most yards in the NFL, so not a great defense. They've actually allowed the 2nd most yards per attempt, so you should be able to move the ball downfield in theory. That could open up things maybe for Jefferson and Addison downfield. We know Alexander Madison is out tomorrow, so to be determined what we see out of Ty Chandler, but he's going to get his opportunities, get his chance to shine. And then the one thing the Bengals do well is they've got a lot of interceptions. They're tied with, I believe, the Cowboys and a few other teams, 4th most interceptions in the NFL. So I think we talked a little bit about Mullens being a gunslinger, which could be good and bad. You could see some big plays tomorrow. You could see some turnovers. I don't really know what to expect. Like, are you thinking Mullens specifically? What's your level of like expectation and optimism? Is it, through the roof, or is it very, very measured at this point, Goose? And I know Dobbs started off well. We liked him for a couple weeks. That obviously changed in a heartbeat. So what do you think on Mullens? What are you expecting tomorrow?
Yeah, it's unknown. So this is my hopeful / best guess is most of his starts came for pretty poor teams. Playing behind, you have to make things happen. And so I'm hoping that attributed to a handful of his interceptions. You look at guys like Josh Allen, who under Dable really got his turnovers under control before and after Dable struggled with it. Daniel Jones last year had a kind of an emergence, got a big contract with Dable. I like to think that KOC has been that guy for quarterbacks so far that can kind of get the best out of them. Hopefully, the way this defense is playing and Nick Mullens not coming in at the end of the game to try to make something happen, I've got high hopes that he can come in, manage the game, make some throws, and if he's going to take risks, have some calculated risks in there so that we can at least push the ball down the field. But I feel really good about Nick Mullens. I think we have a real shot to win this game. It's certainly not going to be an easy one, but
Cool. So I guess normally we've got Tanner on here. We started something a few weeks back, and we've been talking about 3-score wins. The Vikings have not blown out anyone since 2019. Kind against the Chargers, I think it was back in 2019. So we started a little office pool here of sorts. We each throw in $5 every week, and we do just a round robin on who gets to be the one that's up to bat, I guess, so to speak. And if the Vikings win by 3 scores, they get the pot. So we're on week 2 of that. We should have started this a long time ago, Goose. This pot would be huge.
Yeah.
But we're on week 2, so we're up to $30. I'm the guy this week that gets it if they win by 3 scores. Not exactly confident in that happening. So let's get into our bold predictions on not only what we see happening, but what we're going to predict for final scores tomorrow. So, Goose, I'm going to start with you on this one. Give me something that you see happening in the game tomorrow or with the Vikings here coming up, and then I'll go and then we'll hit on the score.
I'm gonna keep riding with the defense of the unit that I feel most confident in right now that I can predict something. I am gonna go bold though, and I'm gonna say that the Vikings turn over the Bengals 3 times, and then just for a little extra credit, I'm gonna say that 2 of those 3 turnovers are between a Caleb Evans, Josh Metellus, or Cam Bynum.
You're very, very confident in the defense. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on the other side of the ball. I'm actually going to go in special teams. I'm going to give a little bonus bold prediction just for Tanner. Come be with us. We got to give him something. So I'm going to give Tanner the second one here. I'll start with the first one. I'm going to say Nick Mullens actually comes in. I think he'll probably throw a pick, maybe 2, but I think he's going to sling that ball around. Like I think Tanner would say the same thing. I'm going to say Mullens actually gives us 3 touchdowns tomorrow. So we'll see what happens there.
It sounds like a lot of yards too, with some picks,
yards,
some touchdowns.
Just slinging that ball all over. Running game might not be much of anything, so I could see where the pass is going to be relied on. Hopefully JJ gets in the mix. It sounds like he's probably going to be fine. He should play. Should open up things for Addison. Feels like that should happen. That being said, nothing's ever predictable with this team.
Yeah.
The one I'm going to give Tanner. This is a freebie, Tanner. You get complete credit for this. I don't even know how bold this is, Goose, but I was going to pair it with my 3 touchdowns, but I'm just going to give Tanner this one.
Okay.
Greg Joseph will miss a meaningful kick.
Ugh.
Meaning meaningful is very, we'll just say he'll miss a kick.
Okay.
I think it's been kind of a fringe issue here for a while. I think it's going to come to light tomorrow. We'll get here in a second if we think we win or lose, but I'm going to say Greg Joseph misses a kick. And I'm going to say it's within 50 yards. So inside of a 50-yarder.
Okay.
Goose, give me a prediction on the score. Vikings are underdogs, 3-point underdogs. ESPN predictor thing gives them about a Bengals like a 57% chance to win the game. Over under, I believe, is right at 40. Weather for December in Cincinnati is going to be pretty nice. I think it's around 50, 52 degrees. Not much of a wind. Playing on the field turf that we tend to play a little bit better on. Goose, give me the final score and how does it play out?
Well, I want to first play in a little bit to your bold prediction, and I think it's going to play into my score prediction. Did you happen to see Jamar Chase's bulletin board material?
I did not.
So
tell me what it is. Tell our listeners what it is.
Yeah. So they were doing an interview in the locker room with Jamar Chase, and I don't think the reporter was trying to push for anything. He said, do you think you and JJ are the top receivers in the league? And I think the reporter might have said top 2, but at the very least, he said top receivers in the league. And Jamar goes, are you asking me the top 2 receivers? He said, I'm the best. Basically, I don't know about Justin Jefferson, but I'm the best in the league. And for guys that went to school together and are pretty close, like, I know part of that could just be like, but he was dead serious, and he was like, I'm not putting JJ in that conversation. I'm the best. We don't need to talk about him. And JJ's a competitor. Like, if that isn't going to motivate him, I don't know what will. So think JJ's going to have a big day. Probably should have added a prediction there with that. But I'm going to go with the Vikings in this game. I think the Vikings with JJ are going to have a good spark on offense. Brent, you got your RB1 that you asked for in like March with Ty Chandler getting his opportunity. I'm going to go Vikings 27, Bengals 23.
27-23. So Goose is hitting the over. Thinks we get a W. Take it. Goose, I'm gonna say, well, tell me one more thing. How does that unfold? Is it Bengals score late, cut it close? It's actually not even that close of a game. Vikings score at the end, take the lead. Fourth quarter flow. Just we gotta kill some of this Tanner time that we've got on our hands now.
I think it's gonna be a back and forth game all game long. It'll be a close one, and I think we'll have a 1-point lead, 24-23, and Joseph will tack on a field goal to make it a field goal, make a field goal out of reach. And then Jake Browning's got to score a touchdown, and our defense is too much for him.
So we will not be down by 30 points at halftime. You're quite confident of that. Okay.
Yes.
And you're also quite confident that this KOC cash-in thing that we're doing with the pool we'll be rolling that into the Detroit game on Christmas Eve. You're quite confident. Okay.
I'll never be more happy though to give you money if we hit though.
I thought we were going to lose this game up until about 20-30 minutes ago. And I'm waiting for Goose to jump on, and I'm waiting, which never happens, by the way. So I had a good 5-10 minutes on my hands, and I started researching Bengals defense. Offense is scoring a lot of points. We know that. 34 in the last 2, like we said. But you know what? The Raiders scored a lot of points last night, and they didn't score a point last week, from what I've been told. So I think we're going to hold the Bengals in check. I think we're going to be able to throw the ball around. I think we're going to be frustrated, which we are every game, but I think we're going to be frustrated on some turnovers. We're going to be frustrated with our kicker. But I think those 3 touchdowns that we get from the new QB1 and Nick Mullens is enough. And I think we win 21-17. And I think we're going to be nervous all day. But we're going to get the win, Goose. We're going to get a few hour break. We're going to go watch Griffin play some basketball. And then we're going to come back. We're going to watch the Lions potentially lose at night. And then it's game on with 3 to go. So, man, if you would have told us we would even have this conversation, end of September, we would have taken it in a heartbeat, right?
Yeah.
Here we are.
Basically,
Lions are doing Lions things. We're winning 3-0 football games.
Have that conversation 24 hours after Kirk ruptures his Achilles. And that would have been. The last time I predicted the Vikings to lose off of memory, I think, is against the 49ers. And we know how that played out. So it's really tough for me to not have faith in the team.
I think what happened in Vegas with the offensive struggles is going to stay in Vegas. I think we're going to put up at least 21. I think Mullens is going to give us a spark. And I think we're going to be optimistic tomorrow night at this time. That's my prediction.
It's perfect.
Goose, what happens if things don't go well and we've got something to complain about tomorrow night at this time? What is that going to be? And the caveat is always turnovers is obvious, especially with this team. But any wrinkle to that? I know we've talked about good-looking turnovers, bad-looking turnovers. Anything else that you can see? Maybe it's the Bengals putting up a lot of points, whatever. But what comes to mind there?
The thing is, even if our defense has a letdown game, like I don't think I could quote unquote complain about it just because they've been so good all year that if they look to the offense for one game and say, hey, can you have our back? It'd be tough to complain. So it feels like it's going to be one of the 2 or 3 things that we talk about constantly, which is either some type of frustration with KOC. You mentioned the turnovers. And then again, it's going to be tough to complain about it, but probably quarterback play. And Nick Mullens is getting his first start as a Viking. So I'm gonna go with what I think is the most likely that I feel like I can complain about, and that's gonna be some frustrations with KOC. And if I have to go specific, I'm gonna go like halftime adjustments. Like we don't look great in the first half, and we don't really do anything to change the way we're attacking their defense.
That's fair. Turnovers, obviously the obvious one. I'm going to go with Greg Joseph. Just hitting on that again. I feel like there's not a ton of confidence there. I could see things going quite ugly in a close game, and it'd be a really easy one to point the finger at if Joseph misses a field goal or two or key extra point, something like that. So I'll stick
You
with
want to know?
Greg the leg.
Here's what I'm hoping that Kwesi is doing after watching the Cowboys play this past weekend. I hope Kwesi has been attending a lot of like MLS soccer matches because
Are there a lot of MLS soccer matches in December?
No,
Couldn't tell
I don't
you.
know.
I have no
I
idea.
have no idea if they're in season. And if they're not, he's watching tape and visiting their house and asking how well soccer pays, because the way they trotted that guy out onto the field from anywhere, and he just was drilling them left
It's
and
like
right.
when he kicks. Have you watched him though? Like it's
Yeah,
like
I mean,
it's
I
in
watched
slow
last week.
motion. It's like he's really just trying to like he knows he has the leg. It feels like he's just trying to take an extra split second and just make sure it's like a tap in putt for a golfer. It looks
Yeah.
like he's just putting them right down the middle. And I feel like he could make a 70-yarder, and I'm not kidding.
No, I do too. And it felt like he was picking the square in the net that he wanted to hit.
Yeah,
Like
like he
every
kind of
time it was just
stopped and then boom.
dead center. Crazy.
It's like you locking in alone. It's just second nature. So
Call it done.
Goose, I got a couple over-unders for you that I'm making up on the fly. I love doing these.
Okay.
Gut reaction. Over-under, Jamar Chase, 90 yards.
Over.
Okay. Over-under, Joe Mixon, 82 yards. Rushing.
That's a good
Rushing.
Okay. Strictly rushing. I don't think this is a given by any means, but I'm going to take the under.
Okay. Jake Browning, passing yards, 260.
Well, my bold prediction is 3 turnovers. And I think that's going to help inflate his passing yards.
Sure.
So although I don't think he's going to have a game that anyone's bragging about, I think he'll slightly eclipse 260.
Okay. For some reason, I have a gut feeling that JJ does not get a lot of yards. Why? Talk me off that ledge. Why do I feel that way? Probably because he got sent to the hospital last week and we haven't seen him.
Yeah, I mean,
October.
It's been so long and we don't have faith that a quarterback's going to get it to him regularly. But I just think this game means a lot to JJ. And I don't like he wants to be the best in the game. And I think Jamar's comments are really going they're going to fuel him. I think he's going to have, and the Bengals don't have a corner that
I think TJ Hawkinson could have a big game as well. I didn't catch the tail end of your JJ little spiel there, but I think Hawkinson could have a big game with Mullens. Just probably gut feeling off of watching that first little play action seam route across the middle last week. What were you saying about JJ?
Well, I'm glad I cut out there because I don't know if you came across it in your quick tidbit research, but the Bengals are not good against tight ends. And so I do think TJ is going to have a big game, which I'm worried about because I play TJ in one of the few fantasy playoffs that I made. But I think Hawkinson
we don't do a podcast about your fantasy team. So we're going to take TJ Hawkinson yards, touchdowns.
For sure. I'll just be
just making you say that part out loud.
Yeah. But I think TJ is going to have a really big first half, and that's going to free some things up for JJ. And I think it feels like there's been a lot of games in JJ's short career already where I either don't think he's having a very good game, and then the box score pops up and he's got 98 yards and it's the third quarter, and or maybe he had a slow half and then he just gets chunk yards on the regular, it feels like, and sometimes it's under the radar. I think he's gonna have a good game.
We're going to end this then on two numbers from you, Goose. Are you ready for this?
Yep.
Passing. No, we'll start this. Receiving yards for JJ tomorrow. I'm not even going to give you an over-under. I just want you to give me a number. A prediction. This is a shot in the dark.
128.
128.
Yeah.
Okay. Give me Nick Mullens, Vikings debut as a starter, passing yardage.
306.
306. Man, we'd be pretty
Slinging it.
excited.
Oh yeah.
Now you got to fill in the rest of that box score. How many attempts? Was that like a 25 for 40 type thing?
Yeah, let's go like 26 of 39. What kind of percentage is that?
That's pretty good.
Gotta
That's
make sure it's not
67%.
Yeah, I like it.
And how many turnovers?
One.
One turnover. Okay. I would say Vikings fans will be very happy if Goose nails any part of this line for Nick Mullens for tomorrow.
Now, Brent, who would you take on who's going to have more receiving yards between Jamar and JJ?
I hate that you're asking me this because I just don't have a good gut feeling. So I will say Jamar Chase. I actually think TJ Hawkinson will have more yards, more reception yards
both
tomorrow
of them?
than Jamar Chase. Yeah, either one of them. Yep.
All right.
There you have it, guys. Give us your comments. Throw in a prediction or two before noon on Saturday here. Love to read those on the post-game episode. Have some fun watching a little Saturday Vikings football. Maybe we're looking at a one game difference in the division by Saturday night. So thanks everybody for listening, for watching. If you've not yet subscribed, go ahead and do that. Hit us up in the comments, and we'll be back again here before you know it. Have a great rest of your weekend.